All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something that I think a lot of people can relate to in the SAP world, just making payments easier.
Yeah.
When you've got customers who are paying the same way all the time, it can get a little tedious, having to enter in the same information
Right.
over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. Just a lot of manual work and a lot of potential for making a mistake.
Yeah, so we're going to look specifically at configuring preferred payment methods in SAP, and we'll be focusing specifically on transaction code XD02.
Okay.
And all this information is coming from SAP's own documentation on payment method configuration.
Makes sense.
So by the end of this, you'll know how to set those preferred payment methods for your customers and streamline a lot of that work.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people get kind of intimidated when they hear SAP configuration, but it's really not as scary as it sounds.
Yeah.
And this is a great place to start because you can really see the impact it has on your day-to-day work, you know.
Yeah, you're saving yourself so much time and you're avoiding those errors.
Absolutely.
So if you're tired of that manual data entry and just the frustration of having to do the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
this is definitely the deep dive for you.
Totally. And, it all starts in the customer master record in XD02.
Okay.
And basically what you're doing is you're storing the customer's preferred way to pay right there in their core data.
Right. So we're talking about like bank transfers, credit cards, that
Isn't
sort of
there?
thing.
Yeah, and you can even get really specific. Like, you can put in their bank account details, any other payment-specific information you need.
Okay, so walk us through this. How do you actually do it? I mean, how do you get to the payment settings in XD02?
Okay, so imagine you're an XD02, you're looking at the customer's information, all their company details, all that stuff.
Right.
There's a tab there that's labeled Payment Transactions, and that's where the magic happens.
Okay, payment transactions. I see it.
Yeah, and in there you'll see a field for payment methods, and
Right.
there's a really cool feature in SAP. It's called Possible Entries, and if you click on that,
Oh, yeah.
it gives you this big list of all the different payment methods that have been set up in your system.
So these are like the approved payment methods that my company can accept.
Exactly, yeah, it's like a pre-approved list.
Okay.
And you just pick the ones that this particular customer prefers to use.
Or if I already know like the code for it, like the payment method code, I can just enter it in directly.
Exactly, yeah, you can type it right in.
Okay, so I've got my possible entries.
Mhm.
I've picked the methods this customer likes to use. So I've got that saved now. What happens next?
Well, once you save it, SAP automatically populates the payment methods field in the customer's master record.
Okay.
So the next time you create a sales order or an invoice for this customer, their preferred payment method is just going to pop up automatically.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I don't have to go and look it up every time.
Exactly. No more digging through files, no more typing it in manually.
That's a huge time saver,
It really is.
especially if you're dealing with, lots of different customers who are, placing regular orders.
Yeah, totally. I mean, think about all those keystrokes you're saving.
Right.
And, all those potential typos that you're avoiding.
Yeah, that's a big one right there.
And it's not just about saving time, it's about accuracy too.
Right.
You want to make sure that those payments are processed correctly and efficiently.
Absolutely.
And this configuration, this little step, it just helps you get there.
Yeah, so I think this is a good example of, like you said before, something that might seem a little daunting or intimidating when you first hear about it, like SAP configuration.
Yeah.
But when you actually dive in and you see how it works, it's not so bad.
It's really not. And, the impact it has is immediate. You can really see the difference it makes.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right, so before we wrap up, is there anything else that we need to know about configuring these payment methods?
Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. Remember how we talked about setting up those payment methods in the system beforehand?
Right, like the bank transfer, credit card stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a prerequisite for all of this. You need to define those payment methods in your system's configuration or customizing before you can even start assigning them to customers.
Okay, so that's really important to remember, so make sure you do that first.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to go into XD02 and you're not going to see any payment methods to choose from.
Right, that makes sense.
And another thing to keep in mind is that you can always override the preferred payment method if you need to.
Okay, so like let's say the customer calls and says, hey, for this particular order, I want to use a different card or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe there's some kind of issue with their preferred method and you need to use a different one just this once.
Okay.
In those cases, you can just manually select a payment method when you're processing the payment, and that'll override whatever's stored in the customer master record.
Okay, so it gives you that flexibility.
Yeah, you're not locked in.
Awesome. All right, so to wrap up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the main message here is that taking the time to configure preferred payment methods in the customer master data using XD02 is a really simple but powerful way to streamline your payment processing.
Yeah.
It helps you avoid errors, it saves you time, and it just makes everything run more smoothly.
Yeah, and for our listeners out there, just imagine, how much time and effort you could save by implementing this consistently across all of your customers.
Right. I mean, think about the cumulative impact it could have on your entire organization.
Absolutely.
It's really worth considering, and it makes you wonder, what other kinds of customer data could we be leveraging to automate and optimize other processes in our business?
Right. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. That's what SAP is all about, right?
All right. Well, thank you so much for this deep dive. I think this was really helpful.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, we'll see you next time.
See you later.